A short time ago in a galaxy nearby, a podcast was made to inspire and entertain. Casual Space. Making space available, one story at a time. Your host with grace, Beth Mund.
Hi, Ben. Welcome to Casual Space.
Hi, Beth. How's it going?
It's so good to see you. Okay, so in all transparency, right? We've known each other a little bit here and
Hmm.
there as neighbors here in our
Yeah.
hometown.
Oh, yeah. Back in St. Charles.
Yes, yes. And you've come a long way, Ben, a long way. But aerospace has always been your goal as long as I've known you. So would you say that's on the mark?
Yeah, for sure. Always kind of wanted to be in the top cutting edge of technology, and what's cooler and more cutting edge than aerospace?
So, because you are younger and because you've had this distinguished career, that, by the way, all of us in St. Charles and the hometown and surrounding cities have been talking about you, celebrating you, and the achievements at Firefly and everything you've done. So, again, congratulations. We're so proud. We'll get into why in case anyone on the show has just tuned in and they're just getting familiar and they're about to understand what's happening here. But it has been so exciting to watch you. So let's start with how you found this love. What was it in school, or who was it along the way that inspired you to kind of start getting your feet wet in this industry?
Sure. Yeah. So I always had kind of like engineering interests in general. And then Purdue does a really good first year engineering program where you kind of figure out which side of engineering you kind of want to get into, which aerospace was just right on the money for me. And then just going up through school, I was still deciding through undergrad what I wanted to do as far as aerospace, more on the like development of fighter planes and different things like that versus space. And then for my senior design project, we actually partnered with Buzz Aldrin for a human to Mars colonization concept mission. It was like a big group of about 40 students and a professor partnering with Buzz to set up this whole um, mission from the ground up. And that was such an amazing, incredible experience. It totally just set me immediately on my path towards space.
Was this an undergrad or grad?
Yeah, undergrad senior design project.
Oh my gosh. Right there. Just start big. Go big with Buzz.
Yeah,
I love
yeah,
it. Was
absolutely.
was Buzz everything you thought he'd be? Like incredibly intelligent and also very direct?
Absolutely. And the stories were just boundless. Mhm. You could just go on for days about things you'd never know unless you talk to him.
Oh, I'm sure. How wonderful. Wow. So we could just hold that right there and have a whole nother podcast about
Yeah.
what it was like to work with Buzz. How did he encourage you and the students? Did he step in at the beginning and see it all through? Was he your guide? What was his role?
So I would say his role was kind of as the visionary. He would give us the initial design directive where we wanted to go as a principal investigator, chief scientist kind of deal. So he would give us our generalized requirements as if we were making this as part of a JPL Project X type study, and then would check in once in a while and give us steering directions on where he wanted things to end up.
Nice. Nice. And did you feel really prepared because of your studies, or were you still intimidated? Like, holy cow.
Oh, prepared in some ways, prepared extensively to tackle like new problem solving challenges for sure. But I started in on entry, descent, and landing as my choice for working in this project, which is something you generally don't learn as an undergrad. So that was an interesting challenge to take on and learn that entirely from scratch.
No pressure. Just, hey,
Yeah.
students, by the way. Now, was this announced to you in the syllabus, or was this like, hey, at the end of semester or middle semester, we're going to have a guest speaker, by the way?
Oh, no. So for your like senior design project, you choose kind of what you want to be on or propose. And this was one of the ones that one of our professors said, hey, I need 30 to 40 students. Buzz wants to do a partnership. So a bunch of us signed up.
Oh, wow. That's how that worked. That's
Yeah,
fantastic. Well, there's a long, deep, rich history of being here in the Midwest and having a connection through to space at Purdue. So I'm really
absolutely.
glad you had that. I'm glad you had that. We're so proud of that here, because it's not a coastal Ivy League or like, we're not immediately tied to some of the things that you can have access to on the coast, which
Hmm.
allow you to have frequent launches, more, military bases, Air Force, whatnot. So it's a real honor and pleasure when we can have that pride here in the Midwest.
Oh,
So, okay,
absolutely. Yeah, with
you're
Purdue and going through aerospace and the Neil Armstrong Hall and Grissom Hall, it's yeah, very clear ties.
there is like an unbelievable record number of astronauts and former NASA that came from Purdue. It's really unknown, right? How
Yeah.
many?
Yeah.
Yeah, must be the draw. All right. Well, okay. So you're at Purdue. You are probably so inspired now by this project and the success of it. So where do you go next? How did you decide on grad school? Where and what?
Sure. So immediately after finishing this project, I went and did an internship at NASA Ames out in California, working on some of their design projects for a deployable reentry system. I worked on that all through the summer, and at the end of the summer, they said we don't really hire undergrads, so we'd like you to go back and get your master's. So then Purdue is a clear choice for me to go back to do my master's. I know a lot of people switch schools, but the options for me were to go to Georgia Tech and work under Bobby Braun, which would have been amazing. But he had so many students at the time that he kind of redirected me back towards my professor I'd worked with as an undergrad, which was Michael Grant back at Purdue. And that he said Bobby's like recommendation was really to stick with Mike.
I see. I love that we're walking through this because so many students have that story, and students that are starting in school, they'll ask questions like, what did you take? Who inspired you? And I think most of us can point to a person, and if we're lucky, persons
Mm-hmm.
that guide us, encourage us, and open the doors for us. I'm so glad you had that and had those people.
Yeah.
And let's not forget you are that now for others. Did you see yourself stepping into that role? And has this catapulted you into the spotlight to be like, because I am seeing you at North High School in the news. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
seeing you all over town that you are this distinguished alum who has gone on to do great things. And now I'm quite sure that people are asking you, what's next and how do I step into this, right?
Yeah, that's that's so heartwarming to hear that it's taken up such just like a statement in the community. But yeah, I never would have expected if you asked me 5 or 6 years ago, even whether I'd be, you know, an inspiration for other people trying to pursue a career in space or anything that they have an inspiration or a passion for. So that's fantastic to hear.
Well, it's been quite a journey so from NASA and
Hmm.
getting your master's then, how did you come upon, was Firefly the first job out of your graduate program?
No. So for my master's, I chose to do a thesis as part of my master's. So I did one on uh, autonomous control methods for reentry, for hypersonic guidance. And then that led me to NASA Langley and getting involved in hypersonic flight mechanics. So, all things related to reentry systems for Earth, Mars, some concept designs for aero capture, some other emerging technologies. And then I was there for about 5 years, to the point where I was working on 5 projects at the time and was the lead flight mechanics for the Mars Sample Return Earth Entry vehicle. And then I was there for, like I said, about 5 years before coming over here to Firefly and living in amazing Austin, Texas.
Yes. Well, welcome to Texas. I married a Texan, so I feel like I'm an honorary Texan by marriage.
Yeah,
How do you like Texas?
I love it. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I
got a cool,
took a couple summers to not melt every time I stepped outside, but that Midwest blood takes a minute to acclimate.
it does. But then they come up here and they're like, how do you function in the snow? And you're like, snow is fun. You just
Yeah,
hold on.
yeah, for sure. My
That's
dad,
great.
my parents moved down to Houston a few years before I moved to Texas, and my dad has completely lost the ability to handle cold weather.
I agree. It's fine. No judgment here. I love Texas and I miss it. And I totally wish that we could have all the things in both worlds because the
Mhm.
seasons are glorious in the Midwest, as everyone knows. You know, it's spring baseball season, right? It's here.
Yeah.
So the reason why productivity goes down in the Midwest this time of year is everyone sneaks out to get to the baseball games because we have not seen the sun or anything below above 40 degrees in so long. And we all go. Like the whole city just stops. Even if you're not at the game,
Yeah.
you're like, I'm done with winter.
For
No
sure.
judgment for your dad. He works hard. I know he works hard, so he gets some time outside finally.
Absolutely.
So great companies like Firefly are coming to Texas, and now they're becoming like places all over the country so that they can access incredible talent like you, incredible opportunities and partnerships, and ways that they can focus on the future. So, what made you choose Firefly?
Yeah, so I actually looked at quite a few companies, and Firefly really drew my attention because they had a lunar lander that initial just concept looking engineering wise really fit with what I would agree were key design principles. And then in addition, just constantly pushing boundaries, and the culture was so much of that like hands-on experience working on anything and everything. Very different than what I had at NASA, where you kind of fit into a niche and become a true subject matter expert of that niche. Here, I noticed a lot of people would have that subject matter expertise, but were able to really swap in as roles were necessary. And that was something I was really looking for to broaden
Nice.
my own expertise.
Nice. We've moved so fast in
Yeah.
just a few short years. Is there a lot of pressure to make milestones in the sense that it's coming not just, and I shouldn't use the word pressure, I would say encouragement. Are people like just beyond astoundedly excited to like land things off Earth planets, the moon, Mars, beyond? I mean, this is just the beginning. And in our lifetime, we have leaps and bounds gone further than we have in the last 50 years. So
Yeah.
I don't want to use the word pressure and I don't want to use the word expectation. But now that we have the technology and ability to do it, does it feel almost like the calling and the presence of doing it is inviting you into it?
I would say in some ways, yes. I'd say the biggest thing is that, especially after having that fully successful landing on the moon, the inspiration and the passion in the industry has just gone beyond what we've seen in the past 20 or 30 years. So everybody's trying to get involved, and there's so much to be done. And like the Blue Ghost is under, or Blue Ghost Mission 1 is under the CLIPS program for 19D, and that supports the Artemis program for using the moon as really the gateway or the staging ground before getting humans to Mars. So in that regard, there's a big push to really get that technology going and prove out that we can do this not just at the moon again, but head off onto Mars.
Oh, wow. Entirely. So, can we talk about the big day? And can we talk about the before and after? So,
Yeah,
it,
absolutely.
I think that what is usually been misunderstood perhaps is, the world tunes in at a really celebratory time, as they should. It was so exciting. And yet, there's a whole story, a narrative you've already shared with us, a lot about your journey, your studies, your career path, the ways you've chosen to go along it that has happened before. As Firefly has their own unique journey and story way before, right? Before this historic landing. I want to talk a little bit about the before, and then let's talk about the during and after. So before
Sure.
that, because anyone who's worked in the industry knows that there's long-term planning, there's a lot of practice and execution, there's a lot of contingency planning and things that are like the backup. So can we talk that through a little bit? What was that like in
Yeah.
preparation?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as with any spacecraft, there's an extensive test campaign. A lot of people would imagine a lot of that is focused on the spacecraft as a whole. So, there's a significant amount of environmental testing, functional testing, and everything to make sure the spacecraft operates. But something that may not be talked about as much is operator simulations and operator training. We had 500 plus hours of operator simulations and training that took place going into Blue Ghost Mission 1 to prep not just like us to run the mission, but to prove out all of our systems to make sure all of our ground systems are working, all of our displays and telemetry are going to work as intended. And we attribute a significant amount of success to finding the small things during those simulations and being able to have the time and the urgency to fix and make things better before launch so that we could have maximum chance of success.
So it wasn't just luck.
No, no, you know what they say about luck. That's the intersection of opportunity and preparation.
Right. And well, I laugh a little bit here because, there are other companies in other countries that have attempted this and not all have been successful. And they are really great. And what they're doing is fantastic. And it's really good to hear this part of the narrative because so many people see what you're about to explain that I'm going to invite you into next. And we want to celebrate with you. But there's, like you said, 500 hours plus, plus, plus. So that is extensive. I certainly know about it. And I do want to remind everyone, there's we don't just wake up and decide to do this. Whole companies, strategies, people's careers, degrees, this all is supportive of the goal. So now let's move into, and it's a long-term goal sometimes because people, space isn't like we can do it tomorrow. We really have to plan forward and dig in and put a lot of time. Time is always what we usually work against, right?
Yep.
Well, let's talk about now time. Like this was just about a month ago now, but let's talk about your days before and then kind of the during time. So I can only imagine the mission focus was so intensive. Did you sleep? Did you break? What was the feeling around the environment that you were working in, and what did it feel like?
Yeah, so one of the most impressive things that I saw during the mission was just everyone's ability to operate at such a small team scales. We had around 50 operators going pretty much full time, back to back with 12-hour shifts on and off. Very, very limited amounts of time for taking any time off. Your full dedication is the mission. Massive shout out to everybody and all of our families and friends who were able to support us during that time because I, for one, would not have made it through without everybody's help. So there's a long time, even just before descent happens, for our mission architecture with 45 days in transit, running extensive prove outs and tests on the vehicle before we get to that big day for landing, as well as quite a few payload operations that took place during transit. So there's a swap out of who's kind of in the limelight at any given time during operations, whether it's the people running the payloads or it's prop or GNC or flight dynamics prepping for a burn. It's kind of just like a constantly moving machine to keep track of.
Yeah, and you have everything on a smaller scale, just like NASA, you just walk through a bunch of acronyms that we're going to invite all the students and families and friends who may not otherwise be familiar with them, like PROP and GNC. These are all the things
Sure.
that are very similar to NASA's mission control, and they all have meaning behind them. So we'll take a pause there and walk that through, or I'll put it in the show notes because they're very important parts of helping support a successful mission because space is very hard, and these are parts of teams of people that are assisting and sitting at some of the control centers that are watching the data come in on every single moment of this. So we'll circle back on that and kind of walk everyone through because I love talking
Sure.
acronyms and sharing that with everyone. So it makes me feel back home. So it's mission day, and let's talk about launch first. Where were you for launch?
Sure. I was in the control room for launch, prepping and just watching the live stream and trying to keep focused on when we got our telemetry after separation while also trying to catch all of the amazing views of the live stream. Watching the
Yeah.
lander, just that first separation video as it's pointed at the sun is just mind blowing.
Yes, it is. I'll never forget when in my era, when I got to see some of those things for the first time. I mean, launch usually was like a camera from the ground looking up. And now we have so many points of view that are on sometimes the
Mhm.
vehicles. And you really get that up close. And doesn't that help with details and mechanics and seeing that everything is on track and making sure that all things are nominal, as they say?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We immediately did a scrub as soon as we saw it of just like, okay, is anything fluttering? Is everything where it's supposed to be? And just like having that chance to see it with video was so valuable just to know that things are where they're supposed to be. Nothing has gone wrong and the launch was nominal.
That's great. It gives you that first breath too. By the
Absolutely. And then
way,
the second one is when that data comes in.
oh yeah, yeah. And were you at work for that as well?
Absolutely.
Now, work must be, I'm going to be assumptive here.
Mhm.
Work is like, if you had a day off, you might still go in and work. Am I right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. During, especially during the mission when everything was going on, like we try
I
to
hear you.
make sure people get some kind of a break, but it's
It's too
impossible to
exciting.
fully pull away. Yeah.
No, you've worked so hard. You don't want to miss a beat. You're just like,
Hmm.
I'm a part of this. And even if it doesn't matter what part, I don't want to miss it. It's just too exciting. I know, I hear you. Okay, so you take that breath. Everything is nominal. The launch is successful. Now we just take that next breath into the next part of the adventure. So
Hmm.
walk us through what's happening next and what we're looking towards and what we're moving towards. Getting there, doing orbits, and then getting the lander down successfully.
Sure thing. So, kind of brief overview. First thing is doing a full functional check of everything that we can safely turn on and operate, whether that's all of our payloads, any of our systems that need to turn on and do any sort of checks to make sure everything is healthy and happy and receiving telemetry as we expect. Once we go through that, it's a lot of health and safety type things for a few days as we prep for bipropellant priming for our system before we do any kind of a burn. This is to prime the entire propulsion system with fluid, pressurize, and be ready to go for when the first burn turns around. Then at first apoapsis, we do that first burn, followed by several more over the next several days in order to put ourselves into the best possible orbit for translunar injection. That's our next major burn, followed by the one for actual lunar orbit insertion, where we put ourselves in orbit around the moon. So that's our full transition of central body for us is no longer the Earth. We are orbiting the moon at that point. A couple more propulsion maneuvers to settle ourselves into a good orbit and prep for landing and do all of our final checkouts. And all the way along the way, we're sending data. We are taking photos, taking videos, capturing every moment in detail, and then making sure all of our payloads continue to work and continue to take science all along the way.
And those videos, I just have to thank you and the team that for releasing them and sharing them with the world because it was glorious. The details and the
Mm-hmm.
beauty. And, it hasn't even, the mission hasn't even completed yet. And you're just taking it all in. You're like, this is it. This is it. So the excitement is building. I can't even imagine you slept at all. Did you sleep at all?
Yeah, pretty much after the first couple days, sleep is from exhaustion more so than anything else. But biggest big challenge was definitely keeping our operators healthy and happy. So everybody on our team is so critical. It's hard to step away, but we have to make people go home and
Yes,
spend
yes, you
time
have
in
to eat.
bed. Yeah.
Yes, take a minute. Right, right. Okay. But let's I'm again building up to obviously the success of what's about to happen and I can't wait to say it. And I do have to say we're human and we've done something big and bold that hasn't been done in years. Years and years. Like is it 50 years since we've since landed on the moon? Has it been that long? So
Seems like it.
I know, and I wasn't even around yet, and certainly you weren't. So
Yeah,
we haven't had this experience. Like whole generations have not had this historic, momentous experience. So the world is watching. Attempts have been made before. It's very exciting. And yet, you put your pants on, you go to work that day, you do the best you can, and we're here. So we're here in this moment. Yes, it's historic, but there's so much to focus on, and it's. I'm being a little assumptive again, but it's like follow the steps, right? There's a whole
yep.
strategy for this. So walk us through then kind of those moments leading up to and where you were when it did land.
Sure. Yeah. So in the control room, we have obviously multiple people, multiple teams. We also operate on our shift schedule. So first shift before landing was prepping and doing all of our flight dynamics, guidance, navigation, and control, and propulsion estimates for how descent was going to go, how we want to plan the burn, how we want to plan all of our powered descent initiation, doing all the checks on all of our componentry. And then we do handoff to the shift that's actually going to do descent. And during that time, it's a large meeting that we put on in the control room to go through every aspect we can think of for the shift and the team to be as prepped as we possibly can be. So during that time, everybody has come to an agreement. We've talked through everything that could possibly happen, come up with as many contingency scenarios as we can. The days leading up to, we have run through outside of the mission control room how any sort of contingency that we have could work. If we need to do anything on the actual mission day, say we need to do another orbit to do a check on something, we have the ability to do it. We have the operator knowledge to do it. We've practiced it. We are ready to go. And then when the time comes and everything operates as it's supposed to, we kind of go through it as if it were a simulation, like we've
Yeah.
done 7, 8, 9 times at this point, and
Yeah.
just run through the steps.
Yep. Practice makes perfect. And
Yep.
those sims, it really does allow you. And once you are a professional in the space industry doing big things like this, Sims will never leave you. Ben, you're gonna be like, okay, when I do this big life event or when this happens next, there you will feel like I've practiced this before. I've thought this through before. This has been in my, purview before. And then you just kind of go through it. But it's such a unique perspective and opportunity because there's not a lot of people that do these momentum
Yeah.
things with the team behind them and spell it out or stage it out. And it would be nice if more people did that, but I've never left that from my NASA days in my life where it's like, what are the steps here? Let's just even at the worst times, right? You're like, okay, let's just break it down step by step. What could happen? Let's troubleshoot. What are the risks? Let's handle the risks. So, okay, so you're there, you've practiced. Are you on that team that is in the room? Are you supporting?
Nope. I'm on console as lead systems operator.
I thought I
Basically,
saw you. I thought I
yeah.
saw you on TV. Okay, so there you were. There you were walking it
Mhm.
through. Okay, T minus like minutes. What's going through your mind?
Yeah, so at the point of T minus minutes, the burn has been commanded, descent has been commanded. It's commanded for a specific timing and cadence and everything to happen autonomously. So yeah, we're just sitting watching telemetry. We are checking it every single second to make sure that everything is nominal. We're watching the system pressurize. We're looking in on everything to make sure that nothing can possibly be off nominal. We're checking for anything that could reasonably tell us we need to delay so that we can abort the burn and try again. If we see any of that, we're prepped, we know exactly what to do, and we're just waiting to let the burn happen autonomously and watch descent happen like everybody else.
And then it does. It
Mhm.
does. And you get a moment of celebration. We all saw it. And Ben, it was at night. And I have to tell you, I am texting your mom. What time was it? Like 2:30 in the morning, 3
Yep.
a.m.? I don't
Yep.
remember. And it was cute because right before she's like, "Are you gonna watch?" I'm like, "Are you out of your mind? I would not miss. No one's gonna miss this. Who's
Oh, I
missing
know.
this?"
I couldn't believe it. Even my grandmother was up at 2:30 in the morning watching.
Of course we were. We're supporting you and we're also supporting the mission. We're supporting this moment. And wow, it was just incredible. Okay, so it happens. We celebrate. Congratulations again to you and the team. We're just so proud. And then you've got to check, right? Now comes
Mhm.
like you've landed, but let's talk about what you're looking for, what you're looking at, because you know, take a moment, celebrate, and
Yeah.
then what?
Yeah. Yeah. So first thing immediately is check that all of our systems that indicate we've landed have said that we landed safely and successfully. So first thing is our ground contact sensors on our legs to say that, yes, these have touched down, all good there. And then secondly is that our IMU says lunar gravity is perfectly straight up so that we can say we are upright and ready to
Right?
go. After that, we immediately, as part of the shutdown sequence of the lander, all autonomous, it takes a video from all of our cameras, and then we immediately stage the most critical ones to check our health and status and downlink those back to the ground. So those are the first photos that we take and downlink from the surface to both check on the lander, but also just to give that initial, very first chance to see the moon.
Oh, wow. And that image and that shadow and that beautiful first was like, it was unbelievable and super, it almost looked surreal. It was like,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
looks like something I would imagine it to look like, but that's real. It's
yeah.
real. I felt the same way when I saw that as when I saw the Tesla in space launch with the it was so surreal that I'm like, am I
Yeah.
really seeing this? Is this really
Hmm.
happening? I'm not sure. Because in my career, in my life, I'm like, that is nothing that we've ever imagined or have seen. And to be fair, in my life, this lunar landing, a lunar landing, is nothing I have ever seen or witnessed. So that's why I had to really take it in. Okay, so it
Yeah, for
happens.
sure.
System's good. You've checked the data. As you're leaving that night, morning, day, whatever time
Morning. Yeah.
your shift is done and you've had your celebrations, I'm sure, and your colleagues again, where do you go? What do you do? Do you go to bed? Do you go celebrate?
Yeah.
Do you get a
So
beer?
the when we got off for that shift and handed over to the next crew who's going to start surface operations for all of our payloads, we all kind of met in the parking lot, took a minute. Our CEO came out with us and he brought in some champagne that
Nice.
he had for all of us. And then we also had a couple people just bringing in other things to keep us going. So by the
Oh,
time I
good.
left that morning, I had had champagne. I had had a very cold cheeseburger, a donut, and then like as we were heading out, a couple people brought like shots or different things. Obviously, for safety, getting rides home from family members, but shot of tequila is a staple
Nice.
tradition for that kind of event for
Awesome.
us. So, but then it was go home, celebrate quickly with my girlfriend before I just completely pass out for the next few hours, and
Yeah.
then, try to stay asleep for at least 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's
Because
so
you're
hard
still, I
not to
mean,
check
there's
in.
right, because there's still data coming in. There's a lot
Yep.
that's going to happen from here.
Yeah,
So exciting.
it's the start of all of our payload operations. So we finally get to see like the culmination of the mission. The whole reason that we're here is getting
Yeah.
all of this payload science for seeing all that for the first time. It's such an amazing thing to be a part of.
This is, and we haven't even talked about the payload science yet. So I'm so grateful we've got a really nice detail of you in the seat, in your work, in your role to walk us through this. But payload is a whole nother topic. And I know
Yeah.
we'll save that for some of the experts, but let's just go through at a very high level. We're looking at the surface. We're looking at what the surface is made of. We're doing
Hmm.
some examination and photos real time. What else was a couple other payloads that you can refer to?
Yeah, sure. So some of the ones I was most excited about is the Lister, which is obviously an acronym, but essentially it is a robotic drill that drills down to get science data in the lunar surface, trying to go deeper than we've ever gone in the lunar surface before. So that one is extremely exciting. Additionally, We have a couple other payloads, some that are essentially trying to prove out computer systems. So RADPC is trying to prove out a radiation tolerant computing system. We have a payload that tracks GPS signals on the moon for the very first time, all the way
Yeah.
back to Earth, as to
So
try to get,
exciting.
yep, to try to get navigation and try to get location just by looking at GPS from Earth satellites. Several other first of its kind demonstrations. So all of it is really for data captured to benefit humans on Earth, as well as taking us to the next step for future
Yes.
humans to the moon.
Can we preview a little bit of what's coming up and what's next, either for
Sure
you
thing.
or for the company?
Yeah, absolutely. So for Blue Ghost Mission 2, payloads include one from the European Space Agency, that's Lunar Pathfinder, to really start their ability to provide communications for future robotic and human missions for the European Space Agency. Additionally, we have a payload called Lucy Night, which is a radio telescope for measuring low frequency radio emissions. And that one's really trying to narrow in and provide insight into the origins of the universe. So for that, we're going all the way to the far side of the moon, for
I
which
like
we
that
need,
name.
yeah, we need a whole additional vehicle that's now an orbiting spacecraft, so we can talk back to Earth and we can relay data from the far side of the moon, and we
So
can
cool.
send all of that data back to Earth.
Great. This is so exciting. Um, your future, Ben. What is next for you? Are we a school in the rear view? Are you learning so much like at work that it's like a master's program? And I always love asking guests like yourself who have done these. Well, there's not a lot of you.
Mhm.
What's harder? Finish this sentence. Going to the moon or
I can't think of anything. Space is hard and the moon is harder. One of my uh, cubicle mates has a T-shirt that says exactly that.
what does it say?
It says the space is hard, the moon is harder.
Oh, I love it. I love it. When is next mission?
The next Blue Ghost mission is going to be late 2026, as far as launch goes, but Firefly itself has a rocket launch for the Alpha Flight 6 coming up shortly.
I know it's so exciting to follow and watch, and things happen so fast. Well, it happens fast, but it's been in the works and been in plan for a long time, as we just discussed. So
Absolutely.
we know. Well, congratulations again to you, Ben. All continued success. I hope that you continue to celebrate. You're so deserving, and the team at Firefly. And please come back and join us again on Casual Space. Thank you.
For sure. Thank you so much, Beth. I really appreciate you having me.
If you enjoyed this episode, give it some stars by rating and reviewing it on your podcast platform. Embrace the space. Casual space.